so that I'll upload it later. Okay. So what do we have for today? We are going to apply some usability guidelines in what we call user-centered design processes. So once you are doing user-centered design, there are some guidelines that you need to follow. You don't just get up and start designing. There are some things that you need to follow. The first one is what we call the process, the design process and evaluation. So if you are going to design something, the process involves, or the first step should be to state your goals. So the goal is, what do you want to achieve at the end of the day? You can't just design a website and then you will look at it, or you want somebody to just look at it. No, they're sort of called the primary goals of the site. Before you even begin it, you need to decide what it is. It's just like any of our physical things that we design. If you're going to put up a building, now you need to know what you're going to use the building for, because that will influence how the building looks like. I mean, a school is different from a hospital, it's different from an apartment for people to stay, it's different from a prison or even a mortuary, if you want, or whichever. So right from the start, you should have your goal. Because if you don't have a goal and you just start building, now what are you going to build? If I know I'm building a hospital, of course, I know what to start or what to put in place, or even the things to procure. The type of beds I will buy, the equipment I will buy, even the how to make the building, because hospitals, we don't have high stairs because sick people will be coming. And so you either have ramps for wheelchairs and all those things. So the goal of your site, first of all, determines everything about the site. So if you're designing an e-commerce site, it's going to be different from a school website or a site for children or a gaming website or a ride sharing like Uber website. All those things are determined by the purpose or the goal. And so before starting the design, you need to identify the primary goal. Are you going to educate? Are you going to give news, entertainment? Are you going to sell something? And then sometimes, who are your audience? Because if you are designing for children, for example, you know what to do. For children's sites, of course, it's obviously different from a normal adult site or something. And even how it should function. How will the website function? Are you just going to be displaying pictures? Are you going to allow people to click and maybe add items and pay for them and so on? All those things have to be taken into consideration at the beginning. And so that's why we say set the goals. So your goals must first of all be very clear. And so once you have set the goals, the first step, the second one now is to establish what we call user requirements. What does the user need to do on the site? Is it a news website where the user is only going to be reading news? Or is it e-commerce where the user has to look through things and possibly buy? Is it for games where you need to have an account and then you can play games and so on? So the user requirements have to be established. So user involvement has become what we call an accepted principle in the development of usable systems. So even at this stage, sometimes we go out there to do some kind of a survey or some needs, what we call needs analysis and other things. Looking at, normally you don't even need to talk to people. You can just, generally, think of, what users are likely to be requiring to do on your site, especially if it is going to be a site that has traffic, a lot of people coming on, and what are they going to be doing? You can design one just for information purposes. So in that case, you just put in your static, maybe a personal website, for example. Things don't change much. So I just put in, maybe once a while I'll change the pictures, but the content doesn't change much about yourself. I mean, if you write your your profile hardly changes. And so you don't even expect too many users at a particular time. And then when they come, they have nothing much to do than to just read what is in there and then go away. And that is it. Maybe if they want to contact you, they can contact you and all that. That's different from a site that is selling something that is very hot. Maybe you are selling phones or selling design, what you call trendy clothes and other things. That is also different because you now need to have a whole lot of things in place that will keep the user engaged on your site, in which case you expect users to return on a daily basis. And so you have to keep refreshing the content. So almost every day you have to add something new so that when you get in there, I mean, it's something different. Others, because of the functionality of it, you don't need to be changing too much because people will still come. But you need to be sure that you provide an easy way for users to navigate and then achieve what they've set out to achieve. And so user requirements is very critical. And sometimes you have to do a lot of research to establish what users would typically be doing on your site. But if you don't do that, you probably put up a site that at the end of the day, people will come once and they will never return. Or even if they are returning, they just check on one or two things and then they are off. Most of the time, you would want your site to have traffic. There's no point put something out there if nobody is coming to see it. You know, especially these days that we now have social media. You see what people do, you know, the so-called influencers and other things. Every day they try to put up something so that people will come to their pages, either their Facebook page, or they will put pictures so that people will like it, or they will make videos and then draw audience to their site. Of course, sometimes there's monetary value in that as well. The more users you get coming to your sites, or advertisers are likely to pay you something because you are drawing users onto the platform. And so user requirements. So once you have set up your goal, which is the first one, you now need to establish your user requirements. So the user requirements, it can be anything. How do we do that? There are so many approaches. There's one called card sorting. Maybe we'll see whether we can do it virtually. Normally in class, it's very easy to do, but yeah, maybe we'll try it. Yeah. Contextual interviews. That is, you go around interviewing people. You know, when you talk of contextual, look at the context. So, for example, if you want to put up a supermarket, I mean, a site that is selling, you know, items that are typically found in the supermarkets, an e-commerce site, you probably want to go to a supermarket, a physical supermarket, and interview people, and that's within the context. So, or you just observe when people come into a supermarket, what do they do first? Do they ask first, or do they bypass the attendants and go straight to the shelves where they know some things are? And so all that will determine how your site will be, because some will just say search. For example, if you look at Google sites, why do you think that Google, if you go to Google, let me just open this, okay, Google site, for example. So you go to Google now, because Google, their purpose is search. So when you come to Google, you don't see any fancy things. You don't see videos. You don't see, because they know that if you come here, you are coming to search for information. So the first thing you will see, apart from their logo, is a large search bar for you to type in what you want to type, because they are not going to distract you with any other thing. I mean, there's just something small, maybe if you want Google in a can or Airware and those things. So purely search. Now, there's no point putting a picture of somebody here, either they are chief CEO or whatever. Nobody's interested in that. People want results, so they will go to search. different from sites like if I go to Amazon, which is e-commerce. Now you go to this site, now you see the drastic difference. There's also a search at the top there. So which means that is those who come into the shop and the first thing they do is to ask, or where can I find soap, or where can I find children's clothes, and so on. So they don't look at what you have, but they just go straight to ask. There are others who just browse. I mean, they just scan through. They can just stand at the gate and scan through and then walk back. So you give them that opportunity to also scan almost everything on your site. Not, I mean, the various categories, and then of course there are now the various shelves that you can go to. So deals and promotions and so on and so on. So the way the site will appear is largely dependent on your users and then your goals. So to set the goals, to get your user requirements, now card sorting, for example, has to do with, so card sorting, normally when you want to put navigation on your site, navigation in the sense that how are people going to be clicking on the various links to get to the various pages on your site. So sometimes you can ask users, maybe if you are doing something like typically maybe a library website, for example. Now, when people come to a library website, what are they looking for? So you can have cards, small cards that you write the various things that will serve as links or pages on your site. So you can have maybe reference books or history books or this or search, or you can write all those things. And then you ask your users to arrange these things the way they want to see on a library website. And so that will also give you an idea what users want. We'll probably see one or two things about card sorting. And focus groups is just like putting people together to discuss an idea or a concept. And then they discuss, maybe they can come to an agreement or whatever, and then you just listen to what they're saying, and then you can make something out of it. Expert reviews. These days, you go to some sites, and there are always something called reviews, especially if you go to Google Play Store, for example, to download an application. There are reviews, and those can influence a lot, because when people review your site and they give you high marks, then other people are likely to also download the application, or they're also likely to patronize what you are doing. And so when the experts review your work or review others' works that are similar to yours, you can have an idea what they want. You can have individuals to interview, personas, prototyping, surveys. We'll come to do system usability. So what we will do maybe in class will be something on card sorting. We'll try and see how that works. Where, of course, we'll do prototyping. We'll do system usability skills. That's part of usability testing. So we'll talk of usability testing. So these are things you do until it's a repeated thing, until you are done with your design or your site and you launch it. Not until you launch your site, there's always user involvement. So you need to keep getting the user or getting input from the user. So the information you gather can build what we call a use case. So a use case means a typical, let me clear this. A typical, so if you have a use case, is, for example, if you are designing a website to sell books, for example, now I can develop the thing and then take it to somebody who has never seen the site before. And then I'll tell the person, okay, go in, open this site, and then go and buy maybe a basketball, and a basketball, for example, maybe you're selling sports equipment. And then you look at how the person is going to navigate your site and get to basketball, and then go ahead to do the purchase. Sometimes if it's going to take too long, then what it means is that your site probably needs to be revised somehow, because you need to make a site that it should be very easy for people to spot wherever they want to go, and then go there quickly and achieve it. So you can set up use cases. So you can say that, okay, for my site, I want that 3 clicks, you should get whatever you want to do, whether it is buying something, it is just looking at something or whatever. And so we can build those type of use cases, and that will also influence how you will do your design. So let me clear it. So the second one is to establish user requirements once you have set your goal. Then the third is to focus on performance. Performance before others. So what are we saying? Look at how your site will perform. Don't worry too much about how it looks. The nice, the colors, the things flipping up and down here and there. Don't worry too much about that. Yeah. But focus on performance. Yeah. And so by performance, we are going to, it's just like, again, if you are put up a building, it would be nice if you have a very nice building, because I mean, if you look at it from outside, oh, so it's a very beautiful edifice and so on. But if you go inside and it's raining and it's leaking, there's water pouring over your things, then that obviously is a bad edifice, even though it looks nice on the outside. So the whole idea is that you must focus first on how it will perform. Says user performance is important. Make this decision about the content, about the format, the interaction, navigation, all that before deciding on things like colors and decorative graphics and so on. So all those are the things that users are looking for. And I think I remember I showed a site which was Craigslist. If I end this, I need to end this before I can, I don't know. Yeah, so Craigslist.com. So if you look at this site, it's more or less not e-commerce per se, but it's yeah. So you have a site like this. I'll clear these ones, and you can see all it does is that it's focusing on performance. So when you come to the sites, your services. Oh, this is in French. Let me see whether I can get it in English. Craigslist. Why is it in French? Anyway, you can. Maybe I'm in the Paris, France. Oh, no. I should go to English, maybe. Yeah. Yes. But this is one of the most highly visited websites on the internet, because it provides a whole lot of things. And all it's doing is focusing on performance. It's not worried about colors and so on. So you go in there and you list, if you have something to sell, you put it up. And then if you are interested, or if somebody is interested, you can buy some new things, some used things, and so on. I don't know why this is all in French. Probably have to change some. Oh, okay. St. France, London, UK, for sale, household, and so, and because it covers almost everything, cars, buildings, pets, and so on, it's very popular. Because somebody is moving the house or moving to another place, and he's selling something, bookshelf, small desk, whatever. You can search for anything on this site, and then you get, and then of course, if you also have something to sell, you can upload it there. So you realize that it's a very popular site, and they don't worry about pictures or colors or anything. and yet it's a function. There are other sites that have tried to do the same thing, but they haven't been able to gain too much attention because sometimes they distract the users with things like videos or on the page. No, people are not looking for those ones. If I'm looking for maybe a computer desk, for example, I just go in there. I'm not going to be worried about what video you have on something else. I'm looking for my computer desk. So I go straight to that. And once you are satisfying that, then that's all what the users want. So focus on achieving a high rate of performance before aesthetics. That is before how it looks like. Of course, when you have satisfied the performance, then you can decide that, oh, I want my site to look nice. I want it to do this and all that. And so, but don't do the opposite. Don't make it nice. And then it's like having a flashy car, and then you enter inside there and then it can't start. Or you start and smoke is filling the whole place. That nobody wants or will stay with something like that. So graphics you use tend to have little impact, if any, on users. So what we're saying here is that pictures and all those things that we put on websites, they have very little impact. People are okay when the internet and websites started, those things were nice. You could see colors jumping here and there and so on. But these days, people are not interested in those things. So they have very little. They say they have very little impact on the success rate. So you can have a nice site, but at the end of the day, if users are going to judge your site, you probably will not get good, high marks because your site is not letting them achieve what they want to achieve as quickly as possible. So then the fourth one says provide useful content. So content should be useful. Don't provide something that is of no use or pop-ups. If you are selling shoes, your website should have shoes. If you are selling cars, you should have cars. Don't say I'm selling shoes, and then when I come, then the first thing you do is to tell me who is the managing director of the company. This is his qualifications. This is his. We're not interested in those things. Our users are mostly not interested in those things. They are looking for the content. So the content is the most critical. So the content must be relevant. Like I said, engaging means it should be something that actually draws your attention and keeps you engaged. So that if it is clicking on, then either pictures or videos or whatever to engage the user. But of course, it should be relevant to whatever the user is looking for. So, and this is where the content inventory comes in. You should indicate what and what you want to go onto your site, and you should justify each of them. Most of the times, of course, there's text, but if you are putting colors, if you are putting big videos or pictures, you need to justify why you think it's there. Is it because some users have indicated that they enjoy seeing it? There has to be a justification why you would have users. Consider many user interface issues. These days, we have several devices that we carry around. These devices can be very large screens. These days, TVs and computers are merged. So we have some TV screens that are very big that also serve as computers. So your site can be opened on that. Can be opened on a desktop with a big screen monitor. Can be opened on a laptop, smaller screen, on a tablet, and then on a phone. And even the phone too, they have different sizes. So very small phones. Even these, they will have watches that have screens. Those smart watches that has a screen that can open your site. So how are you going to design your site to be able to render well in all or on all these screens? And so there's something called responsive design. So when you're designing your site, you need to make sure that if I open it on a laptop or a desktop and it's looking nice, sometimes you come and open the same site on the phone and things are messed up. And that's because you were not being responsive. These days, there's a whole lot of code, and that sense the kind of device you are going to use, and then to change the site to fit in, so that you don't lose much. So that when you are even resizing, so again, let me end here, and then we can see what we're talking about. So if I go to my, so let's go back to Google to start with. Okay, so if I have Google site here, and see that I'm resizing, and you see that it's responding. So we call this responsive design. So it can fill the whole page, and you don't lose anything. See that you can fill the whole page, you don't lose anything. Or you can use a smaller screen, and you still don't lose anything. So it's adjusting, of course, until you get to the minimum. You can't go below this. Okay. So this is a typical phone screen, and then a typical computer screen. Now there are other sites. If you are not careful, you would find, let me see, non-responsive websites. So when that happens, what's happening is that you'll be scrolling from left to right. This is an example of a non-responsive site. Let's see. So you realize that, you see that when you are using a normal computer, then it is fine. You can see everything. But if I use a tablet, look at what happens. Now, so if you open the site and it's like this, but the phone is even going to be worse, because the phone is now going to look like this, and you have to be scrolling this way. And you can imagine how annoying it is. If I'm going to read only this line, and I have to scroll all the way to the end, come back to the next line, it is totally annoying. Nobody is going to spend time on your website doing that at all. And so we talk of responsive design. So a site that is not responsive is not going to have a high usability, score when it comes to users, because people find it very annoying. In fact, sometimes it can be very annoying, or you're having pop-ups that are bringing up unnecessary content. So numerous usability related issues. The user interfaces. So the screen sizes that I've just talked about, and also internet speed. So sometimes if you are working, you are designing your site, and you are testing it at a place where there's high internet speed, you will fine. But you forget that the site will be opened by some people in some places where the speed is not too good. And I'm sure we've all had experience of sitting down and waiting for a site to load. And you click, only one click, and you have to sit for it to load. That can be very frustrating. And that's because the users were testing it, or designing and testing on a very high speed. So they think everything is fine, forgetting that, there are other people who are disadvantaged. So most of the times you make it very light and make sure the content is provided. And if you are going to download something that you think is big, you give an indication. I'm sure we all see the progress bar. So as the site is opening, then it's reading, it's telling you that, oh, it's here. Other sites, they don't give you any clue. So you just sit and you're waiting. Others, when you see it moving, then you can make a decision. Depending on how fast it's moving, you can decide, okay, should I wait or should I go back? But if you don't show any clue, then what means is that the user will simply think that the site has stopped working, and they will simply go back. And so all these are part of user interface issues. Then we have set usability goals. I already mentioned this briefly, in the sense that a performance goal, that is, you set a goal, like not the goal of the site what we're talking about, but we're talking of, let's say, the rate at which you want something to be done on your site. So you want them to find specific information. What will be the speed at which they will achieve that? Now, if a user is going to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's like entering a shop again. If you enter a shop just to buy maybe toothpaste, you are maybe on your way home and you decide to stop and buy just one toothpaste and go. But you enter the shop and you are moving around from one aisle to the next, to the next, to the next, and you are not even finding it. Now, that is bad usability, because there should be a way that either I'll just ask, at the gates, where do I find toothpaste? And that's the search. So you guys just search, and then to point you to where it is. Or there should be those labels. And when you enter the supermarket, I'm sure you see the labels. So when you're walking when you have the supermarket with all these aisles, so here you have all these aisles like this. So as you are walking at the front, you can easily read the labels. So you keep walking and reading until you see household or toothpaste or whatever, and then you can just go in there and get your item. Others don't have that, so you end up walking all this way, walking all the way back, walking all the way, and that's poor usability goal, or usability, in the sense that the user is almost lost. And so one of the guidelines is set a goal and say that, okay, I want it to take 2 minutes for a user to find this on my site. And then you test it with the user and see whether it will happen. If they are spending too long before getting it, then it means you have to make some changes. And so that also helps you to, and all these are research that site builders keep doing and revising their websites almost on either a weekly or monthly basis. But sites like Amazon and all those things, every year you see some changes. But now they even customize it to the user. So when you go to the site, depending on what you've clicked on, the next time you visit, and that's why they always say you should accept cookies and other things. The next time you visit, they will remember that you came. And the last time you came, you were interested in computers or whatever. So I'm going to show you, computers or computer-related things and so on. So in that case, they've set some goals and they expect user. And the whole idea, why do we worry ourselves with all this? It's just because users have become less patient. The attention span is very low. People don't have time for slow websites these days. And there are millions and millions of websites out there. So there's competition. So if I come to your site, especially you Google, and most of the times, how do people even get to your site? They have to search in Google. And if you're lucky, your site pops up and I click on it, it opens, and I have to sit for 5 minutes and wait for it to load. Oh, in fact, the research is even that after 3-4 seconds, people will just click the back button and go back to another site. They're not going to spend time waiting for your site to load. Do not display unsolicited windows. That's those pop-ups. These days, the browsers can suppress pop-ups, but we used to have things popping up on the screen, something you have not asked for, and all of a sudden it pops up. It's so annoying. And even some websites still, I remember I just wrote to, let me see, is it Peace FM? Let me see, one of these sites, Ghana sites. Yeah, I think it's, let's see, I think it's Peace FM. Yeah, so you see something, let me see, you click to open. Okay, this, I think now they have stopped it. Okay, go back. But what they were doing, they put an advert. You see, you click to open the page to read, and then they first of all put an advert. I think now they have either revised it or something. And that is very poor usability, because I'm not interested in that. I came to read news. So why should you just, these are unsolicited windows. It pops up and it distracts users. And I'm sure they've come to realize that by popping them up, and you can also always check the analytics, how many people are coming to your site and so on. And if you see that the number of users has dropped significantly, you can easily find out. It's because you are annoying them with certain things, and nobody has time for those ones. So users have commented that unsolicited windows that pop up are annoying. And so once they start getting annoyed, by the next time, they won't even come to your site. And so that is, okay, so this is, this one has ended abruptly. Let's see whether, yeah, so the 7th is, okay, the last. So these are the simple usability guidelines that you need to bear in mind when you are doing a professional design of an interface, most likely either a mobile application or a website. There are platforms that can help you design mobile apps, and so, or even websites. And so there are just 7 principles. There's another one called Ben Schneiderman's 8 rules. We'll also come to look at those ones. But these are what we call usability guidelines. So we have set the goals, then establish the user requirements, then still establishing, then focus on performance before others. So we have function and form. So form and function, the appearance, and then the way it works. We always want to blend or balance them. We don't want to make only appearance, and then when it comes to the function, then it doesn't work. Or we want it to just function and then it's not attractive at all. No. Then we said provide useful content. The content has to be useful. Consider many user interface issues. Then set the usability goals. And the last one says, do not display unsolicited windows. So these are things you should bear in mind when you are doing any interface design, especially if you want it to have usability or high usability. Okay, does anybody have a comment or a question on this? Let me end this.